Millionaire dad sees his black secretary teaching his daughter with Down syndrome how to speak. What she did next shocked everyone. Ethan Davenport was the kind of man who could silence a room with a glance. The self-made tech millionaire had built his empire from scratch, turning a simple software startup into a global powerhouse. People admired his brilliance, feared his temper, and envied his success. But for all his power, Ethan felt powerless at home. His 5-year-old daughter, Lily, was born with Down syndrome. From the moment the diagnosis was confirmed, Ethan had thrown money at every possible solution: private doctors, speech therapists, and special schools. Yet nothing seemed to break through Lily's silence. She could babble sounds, gesture with her hands, but words, actual words, refused to come. Ethan loved his daughter more than life itself, but each failed attempt to help her felt like another crack in his carefully composed world. Then there was Maya Collins. Maya had been Ethan's secretary for nearly a year. She was smart, efficient, and bold enough to speak her mind, an attribute that had gotten her several warning glares but secretly earned Ethan's respect. A 28-year-old African-American woman, Maya carried herself with a quiet dignity. She knew she wasn't the typical face of corporate America, but she never let that stop her. Every morning, Maya greeted Lily with a warm smile whenever Ethan brought her to the office. Unlike others who hesitated, unsure how to interact with the little girl, Maya would kneel down, hold her hand, and speak to her gently. Ethan noticed, but he never commented. One particular afternoon, Ethan had back-to-back investor meetings. He asked Maya to watch over Lily while he attended to business. His penthouse office had a glass wall, giving him a clear view of his daughter sitting in a corner with her picture books. When Ethan returned hours later, he was met with a sight that made him stop in his tracks. Through the glass wall, he saw Maya sitting cross-legged on the floor beside Lily. They were facing each other. Maya was holding Lily's tiny hands, moving them rhythmically, her lips moving slowly as she pronounced each sound with exaggerated clarity. Mama? Maya said, tapping Lily's chin gently. Lily giggled but tried to mimic the sound. Her tongue struggled, her lips formed the shape, but no sound came out. Still Maya clapped for her, beaming as though Lily had just won a gold medal. Ethan felt an unexpected lump in his throat. For months, therapists had come and gone with professional detachment, but here was Maya. No clinical tools, no formal expertise, just a human connection. And in those moments, it was as if Lily had bloomed. The next day, Ethan deliberately delayed his meetings, curious if what he'd seen was a fluke. But again, Maya was there, patiently working with Lily, teaching her the alphabet, associating words with gestures, singing softly. By the end of the week, something incredible happened. Ethan had just wrapped up a video conference when he heard it. Da! It was faint, barely a whisper, but it was there. Ethan's heart stopped. He turned to see Maya kneeling beside Lily, who was pointing at him, her lips forming the word again, Da! Ethan's vision blurred. He opened the door slowly, afraid to disrupt the fragile magic unfolding before him. She did it again, Maya said, smiling but tearful. She said Dada. Ethan knelt beside them, his powerful hands trembling as he touched his daughter's cheeks. Lily, say it again for Daddy, he whispered, and, like a miracle, she did. Da, da. It wasn't perfect, but it was the most beautiful sound Ethan had ever heard. At that moment, the powerful millionaire felt small, humbled by the simple persistence of his secretary. But what Maya did next would leave the entire Davenport Corporation and the world speechless. The next morning, Ethan arrived at the office unusually early. He had barely slept. The sound of Lily's soft da-da kept echoing in his mind. For months he had resigned himself to the painful thought that he might never hear his daughter call him that word. But Maya, his secretary, not a speech therapist, had somehow unlocked a part of Lily no one else could. Ethan stood in the doorway of his office, watching as Maya settled Lily onto the soft rug by the window. Sunlight poured in, catching the glint in Lily's golden hair. Ethan noticed how carefully Maya interacted with her, not as a case study, but as a little girl who deserved patience and love. "Maya," Ethan said, his voice softer than usual. "How did you do it?" Maya smiled, a gentle, understanding smile that wasn't filled with the awe or fear most people showed when talking to Ethan Davenport. "Sir, it's not about doing anything special. It's about slowing down and listening. Lily has her own pace. We just needed to meet her there." Ethan wasn't used to hearing things he didn't pay for. He'd paid experts for solutions, consultants for strategies, but this woman, she was giving him something priceless, with nothing in return but time and heart. "I want you to keep working with her," he said abruptly, formally. "I'll compensate you accordingly." But Maya shook her head. "I'll continue, Mr. Davenport, not for extra pay, but because she deserves someone who believes in her." Ethan's brows lifted. No one ever turned down his money. "You're telling me you don't want a raise?" he asked, almost amused. Maya stood up, brushing imaginary dust from her navy blue skirt. "I'm saying this isn't about money. You hired me as a secretary, but Lily, she reminds me of my little brother." That got Ethan's attention. "I didn't know you had a brother." "Had," Maya corrected, her voice dipping. "Marcus. He had Down syndrome too, but we didn't have the resources your family has. My mother worked 2 jobs and speech therapy was a luxury we couldn't afford. So I became his teacher. Every day after school I'd sit with him just like this. He said my name for the first time when he was 6. That moment changed everything." Ethan remained quiet, absorbing her words. There was a sincerity in Maya that no resume could showcase. For the next hour, he watched as Maya continued her session with Lily. She used picture cards, soft songs, even silly faces to engage her. Lily's laughter filled the office like sunlight breaking through storm clouds. As the days turned into weeks, Lily's vocabulary grew. Simple words, yes, no, more, came slowly but surely. Ethan found himself lingering at the office longer, captivated by his daughter's progress. Then came the company's annual charity gala. It was a grand affair, held in a luxurious ballroom filled with the city's elite. Normally, Ethan would arrive with a date, usually some model or influencer more interested in the paparazzi than in him. But this year felt different. He decided to bring Lily. It wasn't just an act of fatherhood, it was a statement. His daughter was not someone to be hidden away because of her differences. But there was one more surprise. Ethan called Maya into his office the morning of the gala. "I'd like you to come with us tonight," he said. "As your secretary or your guest?" Maya asked, arching a brow. "As Lily's guardian angel," he replied. Maya laughed, a melodic sound that Ethan realized he hadn't heard enough of. That evening, Maya arrived at the Davenport estate dressed in a simple, elegant emerald gown. Her natural curls framed her face, and her warm smile made her glow. She wasn't flashy, yet every eye turned when she walked in with Ethan and Lily. Inside the gala, amidst the crystal chandeliers and champagne towers, Lily clung to Maya's hand, shy but curious. Then, during Ethan's keynote speech, something unexpected happened. As Ethan spoke about inclusivity and the importance of seeing potential where others see limits, Lily wriggled free from Maya's grasp and toddled toward the stage. The audience gasped. Ethan paused, heart thudding, as his daughter made her way to him, her small hands grasping at his trousers. And then she looked up at him, smiled, and said, clearer than ever before, "Daddy." The entire ballroom fell silent. Ethan, the untouchable billionaire, dropped to his knees on that stage and gathered his daughter into his arms, tears streaming down his face. The applause that followed was thunderous. No press release could have orchestrated a moment that genuine. But what happened after the gala would shock everyone far more than Lily's words. Maya wasn't done yet. In the days following the charity gala, the video of Lily's first public daddy went viral. Every news outlet picked it up. Social media was flooded with clips of Ethan Davenport, the stoic tech giant, on his knees, sobbing into the shoulder of his 5-year-old daughter. People were touched, not by his wealth, but by his vulnerability. Behind the scenes, Maya kept working with Lily, never asking for recognition. But Ethan saw it now. Saw her. Not as an employee, not even as the woman who helped his daughter speak, but as someone whose quiet strength had redefined what success really meant. One afternoon, as sunlight bathed at the penthouse office in gold, Ethan called Maya into his private conference room. "I've been thinking," he began, motioning for her to sit. "What you did for Lily, it's priceless. But I don't believe in luck. I believe in systems, in making things repeatable." Maya's brow furrowed. "What are you getting at, sir?" "I want to fund a program," Ethan said, "a foundation. One that will provide free speech therapy and emotional support to children with Down syndrome, especially in underprivileged communities. I want you to lead it." Maya's breath caught. She hadn't expected this. "Mr. Davenport, I'm a secretary. I don't have a medical degree. I'm not qualified." Ethan cut her off with a rare, genuine smile. "You're more qualified than anyone I know. You have what can't be taught. Compassion, patience, resilience. I'll hire all the specialists, build the infrastructure, but the heart of the program, that's you." For the first time in her professional life, Maya was speechless. Ethan continued, "It'll be called the Marcus Project, after your brother." Tears welled up in Maya's eyes. She hadn't spoken Marcus's name in public for years. To hear it spoken here in this gleaming tower of power was overwhelming. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say yes," Ethan said simply. Maya nodded, unable to trust her voice. That evening she found herself walking through the Davenport estate's garden, her mind a whirlwind of emotion. She had spent her life working behind the scenes, never imagining she could spearhead something so impactful. Yet here she was, entrusted with a mission that was deeply personal. Ethan found her there, staring up at the sky. "My father would never have done this," Maya said without turning around. "He worked 3 jobs, never had time for charity. He thought success was surviving another day." Ethan stood beside her, his gaze distant. "I used to think success was owning more, winning more. But seeing Lily on that stage, it redefined everything." For a moment, they stood in comfortable silence. "Lily adores you, Maya," Ethan said softly. "You gave her a voice. I want you to give others the same chance." Maya smiled, wiping a stray tear. "Then let's make sure Marcus didn't die for nothing." Within weeks, the Marcus Project was born. Ethan spared no expense. He converted an entire floor of the Davenport corporate building into a state-of-the-art speech therapy and early intervention center. He assembled a team of top-tier therapists, educators, and psychologists, all under Maya's leadership. But what truly set the project apart was Maya's personal approach. She designed programs that involved family. It wasn't about technical jargon, it was about human connection. On the day of the grand opening, the media swarmed the building. Reporters expected a standard corporate announcement. What they witnessed instead was a raw, emotional moment. Ethan stood at the podium, flanked by Maya and Lily. His speech was brief. "I thought I was giving Maya a job. Turns out she gave my daughter a voice. This project is not charity. It's a debt of gratitude. To Maya, to Marcus, to every child who deserved to be heard." When Maya spoke, she didn't hide her emotions. "My little brother never had a chance to be heard. But Lily did, and now so will so many others. Every child deserves a voice, not just in speech but in life." The applause was thunderous. But the biggest surprise came next. Maya bent down to Lily's level, holding her small hands just like she always did. "Lily, do you want to say something to everyone?" The room fell into a hushed anticipation. Lily looked around, shy at first. Then, with a courage that belied her age, she spoke into the microphone. "Thank you, Maya." It was clear, it was loud. Ethan's hands clenched into fists as he fought back tears. The audience rose to their feet, giving Maya and Lily a standing ovation. That day, Maya Collins became more than a secretary. She became a symbol of hope, a quiet revolution in a world that too often ignored those who needed patience the most. But the world wasn't done being shocked. there was one more chapter to this story, one that no one saw coming. Months passed, but the ripple effects of the Marcus Project only grew stronger. Across the city, families who had long been sidelined now had a place to turn to. Children who had been dismissed by schools, ignored by doctors, were now thriving under the program Maya had built. For Ethan Davenport, this wasn't just philanthropy anymore. It had become personal. Lily, his once silent daughter, had blossomed. She now spoke in short sentences, could express her needs, even tell her father she loved him. Every evening when Ethan returned home from work, Lily would run, yes, run, to greet him at the door with a proud, "Welcome home, Daddy." No $1 million deal had ever made Ethan feel so rich. One crisp autumn afternoon, the company announced its annual board meeting. Typically a dry affair, focused on profits and projections. But this year, Ethan had something else in mind. As the board members gathered, stiff, suited, skeptical, Ethan stood at the head of the mahogany table, Maya seated quietly to his right. "I'm restructuring the Davenport Corporation's Social Responsibility Division," Ethan announced. "The Marcus Project will become a permanent arm of this company, not just a side initiative. 10% of our annual profits will fund its expansion nationwide." There was a murmur of shock. Some frowned, worried about shareholders. Others looked impressed. But then Ethan delivered the bombshell. "Maya Collins will be appointed as Vice President of the Marcus Project with full executive authority." The room went silent. It was unheard of. A secretary vaulted straight to a vice presidency? To the old guard executives it was scandalous. To Ethan, it was justice. "I built this company by betting on innovation," Ethan continued. "Today, I'm betting on compassion as the greatest innovation of all." Maya's hands trembled slightly under the table. She hadn't expected this. But Ethan simply smiled at her with quiet reassurance. When the meeting adjourned, Ethan's longtime CFO approached Maya, offering a firm handshake. "Congratulations, Miss Collins. Looks like you've shaken up the entire DNA of this company." Maya smiled, remembering Marcus's gap-toothed grin. "I didn't set out to shake anything. I just wanted one child to have a voice." But the story didn't end there. Weeks later, Maya was invited to speak at an international conference on inclusive education. She took the stage in front of world leaders, policymakers, and innovators. She didn't have a fancy title. She wasn't an academic. But she had a story. "My brother, Marcus, never got to be part of a project like this. My mother couldn't afford therapy. My community didn't have the resources. So I taught him myself. When I met Lily Davenport, I saw Marcus again. I saw the child behind the label. All they need is time, patience, and someone who believes in them." She paused, scanning the audience. "This isn't about charity. It's about dignity." The standing ovation she received wasn't polite. It was thunderous, emotional. Tears-filled eyes of people who'd spent their careers in suits, crunching numbers, now reminded of why humanity mattered. That night, Ethan hosted a small dinner at his estate, inviting Maya, Lily, and a few close friends. At one point, as soft jazz played in the background, Ethan leaned back, watching Maya help Lily build a block tower. "You changed my life, Maya." She looked up, surprised. "I thought I was just doing what anyone would do," she said. "No, you did what few people dared to do," Ethan replied. "You saw my daughter, not as a diagnosis, not as a burden, but as a person. You gave her a voice, and in doing so you gave me one too." Maya felt her throat tighten. For all of Ethan's wealth, power, and brilliance, it was this moment of raw honesty that revealed his true self. As the evening drew to a close, Ethan walked Maya to the grand entrance. "Thank you for saying yes that day," he said quietly. Maya smiled. "Thank you for giving me the chance to say it." Outside, a light drizzle fell, the night air crisp with the scent of autumn. Lily, now more confident, tugged on Maya's coat. "Maya, can I read you my new book tomorrow?" she asked, her words clear, her eyes bright. Maya knelt down, tears threatening. "Of course, sweetheart, I'd love that." As Maya drove home, she thought of Marcus, of her mother who had struggled but never given up, and of the little girl who had become her greatest teacher. In the end, Maya realized, this wasn't a story about a millionaire saving a secretary. It was about a secretary saving a millionaire's heart and giving the world a powerful reminder. Every child has a voice. We just have to listen.